Hi, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to repair a cell phone cover that has become detached like this, and some of the rubber on the side has actually come apart. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to solve this problem. To perform this repair I need a rubbing alcohol. This is a 90% alcohol. There's no glycol in here, and then I will need super glue, a screwdriver and a piece of paper and just a cloth. The first step is to clean the surfaces. So I've just taken some rubbing alcohol and I'm actually cleaning here. The reason I'm cleaning it is before I can glue it, it must have no oil, no sediment. Toothbrush is also very useful. It gets into the crevices. So wherever the cover is coming apart, just give it a clean. It's also coming apart over here. Just give it a clean. Right, so I just need to let this dry. Or if you have a blower, you can just blow it to dry it. Right, so the next step is to use super glue. I don't put super glue on the plastic and the rubber like this directly, because if I do, it runs on the side, and if you wipe it, it actually creates a hazy smear and it makes the case look scratched and old. So what I do is I take some super glue and I actually put some on the paper. So I've dotted there, and then I use a screwdriver or even a toothpick, anything that just allows you to take the glue and put it on the surface. Now before I do this, I go and wet a cloth, because if I spill any super glue, I can wipe it with a wet cloth. You're right, so here's my wet cloth, just in case I make a mistake. And I make sure my fingertips are completely dry of any oil. You can also use the rubbing alcohol just to clean the fingertips. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint this on. So there's the super glue, and I'm actually painting it on here. Getting that super glue on the surface here. It doesn't need a lot. Right, so then I seat it. Right, so I've seated that, and what I'm going to do straight away is wipe the side with a damp cloth, because I don't want the super glue to get on the plastic or the rubber on the outside of the joint. Right, so I'm just holding this down, and now I'm moving over here. So I'm actually doing this part by part. All I'm doing is the first part, which is the top here, and it'll be dry in a couple of minutes. It does depend on the type of super glue that you're using. Now don't worry if there's some white discoloration there, it comes off very quickly. Right, now I'm moving on to the next section, which is this whole long piece here. So I'm just coating the surface as long as there's a bit of glue on each line or in each part of the surface. Right, so this corner I'll do last because I'm going line and then line. Right, so I'm going to be very careful here. I don't want to get any super glue in the wrong places. And I'm just putting that on now. If you get super glue on your fingers, just immediately wet your fingers with the damp cloth. And some super glue has got on the sides here, immediately just take the damp cloth and wipe it. It's not a problem as long as you wipe it immediately. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it down while it dries. Right, so that's all drying, and I'm just going to do this corner quickly. A little bit of glue got here, but I'm going to just redo it. Right, so I'm just pressing it down quite firmly while it dries. What I normally do is I just put something on it that's quite heavy, and I just leave it for a couple of minutes. Right, so that's compressing the joints. Right, now that it's dry, I take a damp cloth and I wipe it. The reason I wipe it is that super glue tends to leave a bit of a white residue, sometimes almost like smoky. So I'm just wiping it so that I can see what needs to be scraped off and what doesn't. Okay, so this is actually what it looks like now that it's been repaired. There's a little bit of extra super glue here, like over here, there's a bit of glue. So I just want to first see what it looks like once I've wiped it, and then I'll see if I need to scratch any of it off. All right, so I'm just taking a little blade, and you don't have to do this. It's just if you're being a bit of a perfectionist, and I'm just scratching where some of the super glue bled through. This is just for aesthetics, if you want it to look new again. Just be careful not to scratch the plastic. I'm actually just removing the super glue off the rubber. Because the rubber is flexible and the super glue is brittle, it allows me to scratch it off. And then once I've done that, I just take my damp cloth and wipe it. So you can see that that's a lot better. Over here, there was only a tiny bit on the edge here that got through. Here, the seam was pretty good. There's a little bit over here. I got a bit on the rubber here. And then there was quite a bit over here. This was the last corner, so it was a bit difficult to get the screwdriver there to deposit the super glue. And I can tell you that if you took the super glue and just went like this, it would go everywhere and this would be much, much worse. All right, so I could just carry on doing this until it's close to perfect. I'm already happy with that. Now, just a note, if you're gluing a plastic piece onto a plastic piece, just make sure the super glue does not spill out over it, because it leaves a mark when you scratch off the glue on the plastic. Meaning if the glue was all over here and I scratched it, it would then become hazy. It wouldn't become clear. All right, so there's the finished repair. If you want to make it look quite new, you could take a silicone spray. Panel beaters often use this on vehicles and tires and rubber inside, and just go over it, just like this. And it just puts a shine back onto the case. I'm actually going over the entire case. I just put a tiny bit because I don't want it to be have an oily feel. Right, so there's the case. So it was repaired from there all the way to here. And is it strong? As you can see, it's so strong that I'm deforming it, but it's not breaking. And there, look at that. The whole case is bending, but it's not coming off here. And the corners, yeah, look at that. And the button presses work perfectly. And if I remove it, even where I glued it, look, it doesn't break off. And this corner I also glued. Look, when I remove the phone, this is still intact. Look. All right, so that's my little repair. Thanks for watching, and cheers.